Hi, everybody, and welcome to Introspection, the podcast about grief and loss and life's transitions and making them a little bit more acceptable so we can talk about them. They're not things to be ashamed of. There are really only two things that happen to every single human being. We're born and we die. And so going through life transitions is a normal process that everybody will experience. So I'm your host, Amy Lindner-Lesser, and I'm glad you're here with us today. Today, I have a guest who I'm really excited to talk with. Cindy Florkey is a certified functional nutrition counselor and wellness coach with over 20 years of healthcare experience. Cindy truly understands the exhaustion that comes from trying to juggle it all while running on empty, because she's been there herself. Drawing from her personal journey of overcoming fatigue, she's developed a system of small, practical changes to help women reclaim their energy. Cindy's compassionate approach and focus on simple, sustainable steps empower women to feel more energized and reconnect with the moments that matter the most. Get ready to be inspired as Cindy shares her insights and strategies to help you thrive as you go through a life transition. Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner-Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in.
Thank you so much. And that was such a warm welcome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm really excited because I know you've been through this process of fatigue and malaise and having to figure out what it's from and how to get rid of it. So, how you can live a normal or as normal as possible life as you can. And one of the things that, like, I tend to be a stress eater. However, what I noticed was right after my husband passed away, I stopped eating. I wasn't hungry. It's the only time in my life, no other life transition, nobody else's death has done that to me, but it did. And I lost like 30 pounds within the month that he died. And I think many of us have no idea what we're doing or how we're doing it, especially when we're going through something that causes grief. And just to remind our listeners and viewers that grief is not only caused by death. Grief can happen when there's a change in any relationship in any way. So it can be a happy change when somebody gets married, as long as it wasn't a shotgun wedding. It's a happy occasion. And yet, the loss of the way somebody lived their life beforehand compared to marriage is a loss, and it can cause grief. So I wanted to have you come on to talk about food and how it affects grief, how grief affects our eating and our body's, I guess, metabolizing of the food. And then before we end, I want to touch on the role food plays in our not just physical well-being, but our emotional well-being.
Yes.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit about your story, your personal background with this relationship.
So, my personal background is I went to school for radiation therapy. So I'd be treating cancer patients with radiation, um, not not knowing that during my schooling, my mom actually had lung cancer. And so as soon as I got done with school, I moved home. I felt called to go home. I didn't know why. And I started working, and she finally had some tests done and found that she had lung cancer. And so she only lived 3 months. So I was in my early 20s when I lost my mom. And I have a twin sister, and we both were radiation therapy, so we kind of knew what was going to happen. But my older sisters did not handle it well. So we felt like even though we were younger, we had to be the support system for my dad and for the other family members. So I felt like I never got the time to grieve, that I kept busy. I worked, had a new job. I got married that year. And so I just kept pushing my grief down. I never grieved.
We talked about this as we were preparing to do this recording. We talked about how when emotions are not dealt with, they show up. There's a wonderful book. It's a heavy book. The Body Keeps the Score. And it's very true. Your body knows that there are things that are going on that you're not dealing with.
Yeah, and I kept that up for years. Like we had a lot, a loss of a grandma. I lost my dad about 10 years ago. I lost both my older sisters, and I never grieved. And I look back now and see how that affected my body. Did I have other things going on that caused my fatigue? Yeah, but I think it was, layer after layer of layers of um, things and suppressing things, that stress just really made my health hit rock bottom.
And we talked that my husband died in August. I believe it was January that I ended up with gallbladder issues and having to have surgery. And then later on, I had uterine cancer, and there are other things going on because it took me at least 5 years to start to feel the grief. I thought I had grieved. I knew my husband was sick. He had cancer. I was grieving before he died. And once he died, it was like, well, you got to run the business and you got to raise the kids. And that was it. I was just, I was sort of in slow motion or being a robot.
Yeah,
My,
you didn't really have time to think about it because you had so many things that you had to take care of. And
right.
that's kind of how I felt. And I felt like it was easier just to suppress it, but that's not really good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, so there were a lot of layers. Like the house we lived in, my husband and I and the kids had mold. I had to get a vaccine for work, and then suppressing all of these things and having a high stress because of the deaths in my family is where I had a lot of food sensitivities. I could barely eat anything. So I lost a lot of weight, and I'm not a stress eater. I don't eat. And so then you can't nurse your body. But basically, the way my body was reacting, I was really starving to death. And so I had to find a better way. I went to doctors. They wanted to give me stuff for ulcers. That's what they told me. And I was like, that's not what's going on here. And so I had to do research and find my own way through. I did follow some natural health doctors and stuff, but really I couldn't use the healthcare system. I had to navigate it myself.
I think that's a really good point, that we do know our bodies better than any medical person, than any test, that there's that inner knowing and that little voice in your head that says, like it said to you, go home after graduation. You're not staying at the same town anymore. You need to be home. There was nothing that would have told you that outright. It was just that inner knowing, and the same thing here. And I'm guessing I have nothing to base this on, but for those people who are stress eaters, they're also starving their body. because we're not stress eating salads.
Right.
We're stress eating crap.
And then that makes you feel worse and more lethargic or more depressed or more like whatever you're facing when you're not taking care of yourself. It's kind of a snowball effect. It's making it harder. And now, yeah, definitely we don't, that's not, like we think of ice cream and chocolate, right? when we want something and we feel bad. And I still kind of go to that too. Like if I've had a stressful day, I'm like, ooh, that dark piece of chocolate, that's what I really want.
I want fried stuff.
And
I
we
want
just
bread and pasta and fried stuff. You can keep the ice cream, you can keep the chocolate.
and sometimes that's not a bad thing. Like, I want people to eat healthy because they feel better. But we were talking about how like certain foods we remember from our families. And so maybe you do need to step back and eat those foods because it brings a good memory and a feel good thing to you. Now, if you're doing it like every single day, that might be a little much. But I know like my mom, and we weren't Italian, but for some reason I loved her spaghetti and meatballs. I don't know what she did to the meatballs. And I'm pretty sure the sauce was store bought. She might have made her own way back when, but I feel like when my sister and I were in high school, there were a lot of box mixes and stuff. But just the smell of that and remembering that, I've tried to make it, and I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, so I have to kind of tweak things, not quite the same. But just having those meals every now and again it just brings like a happy feeling, I think.
Yeah. I talk about, how do you commemorate somebody's birthday, or how do you remember them on their death anniversary? And one of the things that you can do is you can make their favorite meal and enjoy it with the memories, so that you're taking something that's sad and bringing something that's happy, the happy memories with them, and then pairing it with a food.
Yeah.
It's best if you can enjoy it with somebody else, so that it doesn't become just a food fest, but I'm not one to talk. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. We just had a friend. She's in her 80s and she just lost her husband of 65 years. And we all got together with her this morning. And I just thought it was neat because they had planted tomato plants together and they were seeing who got the first tomato. And so even though he's not here, she was kind of talking about like he got his tomato first, but mine looks better. So even though he's not there, she's still remembering,
Mhm.
and then this has just been a couple weeks ago, but
And
she's been really good about like talking about it and the things that he likes.
every tomato she harvests from that plant, she will think about him this summer.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Which is another wonderful way. And, if she's around next year, that she can plant tomatoes and think about him and pick the variety of tomatoes. I do that because my stepfather loved gardening, and he was almost 104 when he died. And the,
Wow.
the summer before that, he died in March, no, December. But the summer before that, we grew deep purple tomatoes and another variety of tomatoes. And so now I think about him and I try to get those varieties. And each time I have one, I think about him.
That's really fun. So, like we think about food sometimes for our families. My grandma made like lots of cookies for Christmas, and I don't really eat those things, but sometimes I will even just make her recipe just because at Christmas, even if I don't eat them,
Yep.
I give them away. But
Well, sometimes it's the smell of it. And I did a whole podcast on scent and odors and how olfactory memories bring back some wonderful memories of a person who is no longer around. And I
yeah,
think the same thing with food, because, if you don't smell something, you don't taste it. My mother lost her sense of smell many years ago when I was a little kid. She caught chickenpox from me and lost her sense of smell. And
no,
so she never cared about food. because she couldn't really taste the difference between ketchup and tomato sauce. Maybe
Mm,
the thickness, but not the taste because she couldn't smell it.
that would be sad.
And interesting for anybody who's had this happen, loss of smell is one of the precursor signals to Parkinson's.
Interesting. I also heard that you're also lacking zinc.
That's interesting.
I haven't
We,
done a lot of research on that, but
yeah,
from COVID and like a lot of people losing their sense of smell and taste.
mm,
Well, I know it might have been the taste of zinc,
maybe.
the smell, but yeah, I relate to the smell things too. I grew up on where my dad had a sod farm, so he grew grass, and just that smell, dewy smell of grass, that just takes me back home. My home is no longer there. There's big factories there now, um,
Oh,
and
that's
also the
bad.
smell of diesel equipment. I don't know. I love that smell. It reminds me of my dad.
Exactly. Scents are very important. It's amazing, something that we can't, we don't see it, we don't hear it, we can't feel it, but it still hits a part of our brain that says, "Oh, remember this?" And food is a really tough thing that we can, you know, if somebody has a bad habit of smoking or of drinking too much, you can live without cigarettes, you can live without alcohol. You can't live without food.
No, and especially when you're going through grief, whether it be losing somebody or losing a job, or, we just had our son, he was engaged to be married, and that was cut off. So that's a grief there too. But
Mhm.
if we're not fueling our bodies with healthy stuff too, it's going to be a really hard transition to get back some of those feel good hormones to be able to get out of that grief.
Mhm. Are there specific foods that help heal certain areas of the body that somebody might be able to say, "Oh, I broke my leg. I should be eating more whatever," or "I just lost somebody. I feel it, my heart. Is there something that I can do?"
For brain health, you're looking at a lot of the omegas. So if you're having a lot of like hard time with depression and things like that, you definitely want to do the anti-inflammatory foods. So that'll help heal the gut. There's the gut brain connection with, if you're healthy, if your gut's not healthy, then your immune system isn't healthy, and it's also connected to your brain health as well, your mental health. And so eating those anti-inflammatory foods and the berries, your omega-3s,
Can you
trying
help?
to get a rainbow in during the day if you can.
Life quakes or life transitions and the aftershocks that follow are something we all experience. A life quake can stem from the heartbreaking grief that arises from the loss of a loved one, or the disorientation felt when life suddenly shifts due to the loss of a job, relationship, identity, or health challenge. Learning to navigate these transitions with mindfulness, grace, and self-compassion is the key to finding your way back to joy, happiness, and inner peace. Advanced Grief Recovery Method Specialist and Certified Life Transition Coach, Amy Lindner-Lesser, MSW, expertly supports clients to navigate their life quakes and transitions with warmth, kindness, and grace. Learning to accept support as you navigate your way through the aftershocks is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Learn more at introspection.com. That's introspection.com.
Can you help with some suggestions? Like, what are foods that are high, for example, in omega-3s? I mean, I know fish, like certain salmon and tuna and whatever, right?
Yeah, the fish, some of your nuts, you can get your omega-3s from. Um,
Which is good for people who are vegetarian and vegan who won't eat the
yes,
fish. Okay.
yeah. Um,
Flax.
Flax, some of your oils, your olive oil, probably I think avocado oil is up there too. which you can also do avocado on your salad or throw that in a smoothie. Uh, yeah, I like to do a lot of things in the smoothies, just
And for
because you
people,
can add a lot of green. You can do greens with your, try not to do too much fruit, but if you're not used to, you know, just doing veggies or whatever, and you need that sweet for now, you know, like work your way. I like to take baby steps. So if you want to do more fruit and a little bit of greens and add that those flax seed, flax meal, a little bit of avocado in there, then you're just getting some goodness. And if you can just do that, you know, once a day or a couple times a week to begin with, then you can build on that. If you try to change everything at once, especially when you're, you know, like you're fatigued, maybe you know, like because of just feeling sad, then you know, just take, you know, one step at a time. You don't have to make big changes.
and for somebody who doesn't like avocado, you don't taste it if you put it into a smoothie.
It's true.
I mean, I happen to love green drinks, and because I have diabetes, I stay away from a lot of the fruit. Many
Mhm.
people will put a whole banana in or half a banana, and I'm like, nope, no banana for me. But I can put a quarter of an apple in if I need a little bit of sweetness, and that will do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of start where you are. We meet you where you are, and then we can take you a little bit. I actually can't do avocado. I get a reaction to that. So I do more olive oil and the flax.
And then there's also like chia puddings.
That's really good. And your omegas too. I forgot about the chia. Yeah.
And for people who don't know what they are, they look like poppy seeds.
Yes.
And the first time I had them, I was taken aback because when they get wet, they get slimy.
They do. They thicken up really good. So you can make a pudding out of them and
Yes.
you can flavor them with whatever you want.
Yeah, they have no taste. Um, so it's wonderful. Overnight with some liquid and whatever flavoring. And it's like having a dessert.
And they actually help your body hydrate better. And
Oh,
again,
that's interesting.
another one I can't do. I have a weird body. It doesn't like the healthy things sometimes. So, but it is really good. And I would say the other thing, like we're talking about food, but also hydration, like um, just being dehydrated by 1 or 2% can cause fatigue, headaches, mental, you're not mentally clear. And so along with the food, like that's why I love like the smoothies and stuff, because you can hydrate with those as well as getting some really good nutrients and on top of that.
Just stay away from the beverages with tons of sugar
Yes. Yes. And
because
sugar,
that doesn't help.
no, I think it makes you feel good in the moment because it hits those good feel good receptors. It's actually more addictive than cocaine is. And but then it wreaks really bad havoc in your body as far as your immune system and even your mental health too.
I mean, for me, I find without a doubt, I get the drop in energy after I have lunch, no matter what it is. It could be, a very healthy salad with very low carb, no sugar. And, within a half hour after eating, I'm ready for a nap. And what I have found, since I don't usually have the ability to take an hour nap in the middle of the day,
That
um,
would be nice.
having, a glass or two, because I usually do at least a 16 ounce, or other days, this is my herbal iced tea, but it's a 30-ounce thing and I fill it with water, ice water, and then by drinking half of it, I'm wide awake, and it gets me through the rest of the afternoon.
I know it's surprising these little simple things that make the big difference. And I love the herbal tea. Like if you don't, I have a friend who does not like water, but she does like herbal tea, and so she's able to hydrate that way. But it adds a little fun and a little flavor. You know, once you get bored of the water during the day.
and I don't add anything to it. So where I used to live, the restaurants in the town that I was in would make Amy tea, which was Amy iced tea, and it was about an eighth of an inch of tea and the rest water. It was like just enough to color it so that it sort of looked like apple juice color, and it had a little bit of a taste, but it wasn't overly tasting of tannic acid from regular tea. And often restaurants will make their tea in their coffee pots, and I'm not a
Oh,
coffee drinker and don't like the taste of it.
mm-mm.
So
They
this way
definitely
I had
should make your tea right.
right. So this way I had just a tiny, tiny bit to flavor it. And it was funny. They'd say, Amy tea? Yep, Amy tea. I'm
That's
trying,
I love flavor in my tea, and so I would be like, "No."
and I don't even like the taste of regular tea. So, I went with herbal tea wherever I could get it. And don't put lemon in it, just give me a little bit. My mother, we used to tease her and say she walked the tea bag past the water.
Oh.
Her her hot tea, her tea bag could last a week and she would save it. You knew that she grew up in the Depression, and
Oh,
one
wow.
tea bag would last, she'd put it on the side, and the next time she had hot water, she'd dunk it again, to the point where by the end of the week, she was just drinking hot water with lemon.
Yeah, I like a lot of flavors, so
Yeah. But it's,
but I have like the tea is another thing, like that's healthy for you too if you're getting herbal. I do a black tea in the morning. Like I love the smell of Earl Grey, and that's like another happy thing for me. And I know my limit, like I know like 12 ounces, that's all I'm drinking. And then I drink water the rest of the day, or I do have a blueberry herbal that I like iced. And just sharing. And that's another thing, like sharing things with friends where you can talk about your grief or or remember. And we have a lot of ladies now coming together and drinking tea together, and so
that's
that's a lot
nice.
of fun.
That's nice. When I owned our inn, we used to do a lot of tea parties. And I remember one where we specifically did a very low carb tea party, which meant we did not have tea sandwiches with bread. We made tea sandwiches with cucumbers or tea sandwiches with lettuce. And it was a lot of fun, and the women loved it.
I love that idea.
Yeah. We're going through enough in our lives, whether we're actually actively grieving something or not, that the less we have to take away, the better. The more full and normal we can make our lives, the better.
I feel like sometimes, I mean, some people like bring everything in when they grieve, or some people push it away. I feel like I pushed a lot of things away, and so I didn't keep a lot of those healthy habits, or those food things that my family made, because I pushed it away. And then I got to the point where I couldn't eat those things, and I wish I would have. I wish I would have introduced those more to my kids, and the things that I grew up with. They might not be the healthiest thing, but just for them to know kind of what my childhood was like and what my mom made.
It was a connection.
There was a connection because they, like I got married after my mom passed, so my kids never knew her. And so I wish I would have shared more with them. And I can still do that. They're in their 20s, so I could bring that back. And it might be something that I do here now after talking to you.
I think it's interesting because the days when I was growing up, we pretty much had dinner together every single night, and weekends, either Saturday or Sunday, were family dinner. And my grandparents would come, or you know, um, I was an only child, so it was my parents and me, and then my grandmother would come on Sunday usually. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it
And
sure doesn't.
I tried when my one daughter who lives near me. I was like, okay, let's do a Sunday dinner. Nope, they've got too much going on in their lives. So it's still a way. A meal is still a way for us to get together, because we have different likes and dislikes, and now they've got an almost 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're busy, I'm busy. We all have to eat. So let's find a time and a place, and nobody has time to cook. So let's pick a place where we can go out and where the little one will eat.
It makes it a little more complicated, but that those times together are so they're precious because we don't know how long people will be with us, or
Nope.
how busy people will get, or if they'll have to move for a job.
Right. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So we need to celebrate it and enjoy and live in the present time.
Yes,
You
for
know, don't
sure.
don't borrow problems that haven't happened, because we don't know if they will. And oops, my dog is coughing something. Um, you said that you pushed away things after, I guess it was after your mother passed away.
Mhm.
Was that because of grief? Was that you didn't feel that you wanted to be remembered of that? Do you
I
remember?
I think I feel like I felt like I had to be strong and I couldn't show my emotions. And I grew up in a house. I was very close with my mom. She was my best friend, and so that was really really hard. Um, but my dad was an alcoholic, and so he was a functional alcoholic. We ended up having a really good relationship after my mom passed away because I made the time to get to know him better because he always just went through my mom. But I pushed things down because I thought I had to be strong. When you grow up in an alcoholic family, you tend to how do I want to say this? Like you pretend everything's okay. And so that's what I was used to. We just pretended like everything was happy and good and everything was just perfect.
But at the same time, you were not allowing yourself to fully enjoy life.
Uh-uh.
So you were somehow almost punishing yourself for behaving in a certain way. And I
Yeah.
think that's very common. You know,
Yeah.
there's the fear of how can I how can I go on? How can I be happy when this heavy, terrible thing has just happened in my life? So I can't laugh, I can't smile, I can't enjoy things. And if I do, then I need to punish myself somehow.
Yeah, and that was the time, like, I kept myself so busy working. I had 2 jobs, and I didn't take care of myself. And we probably really need to look at that. We talk about food, and we talk about, like, even when you're feeling that grief, just going for a walk, just moving a little, even if you don't feel like it, that's all part of healing and taking care of yourself, because I feel like that person that you lost, that's what they want you to do, but we get sidetracked or derailed because of what has happened.
Exactly. And like in my case, I'm going to be very whatever. I think that I started eating as the comfort that I wasn't getting from the other people. And it's the one thing that I could always count on. I couldn't count on the people anymore. They were dying and dropping
Yeah.
right and left.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that is interesting that you connected that, and that's probably something that we really do need to look at. Like, I have some other friends that work with like food addiction and stuff like that, and just making those connections. Why am I eating that? And
Right.
maybe it's not a bad thing, and maybe it's, like we talked about earlier, like maybe it's just remembering, and that's a good time to just be able to do that, to eat that food and to remember. But if we're doing it for a different reason, that
Or
we need to find those connections and how to maybe change that so that we're getting a little bit healthier, a little bit more on track, so that we are taking care of ourselves.
or to remember without the food. remember the food without stuffing it. But, eating often is stuffing the emotions.
Yes.
Okay. So I know that you've shared with me that there are a lot of foods that you can't eat because they make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you mentioned you were gluten and dairy free and avocado free, and I don't remember anything else, but chia.
Yes. I have crazy ones like peas and
That wouldn't bother me at all. What kinds of things do you do so that you can enjoy foods, whether they're from your childhood or from now, that you just can't have because they make you sick, but you're really craving? So what do you do?
so my grandma used to make us a chocolate cake with chocolate icing. I don't love icing now, but I have made a chocolate muffin that's gluten-free, dairy-free that actually has like that texture, more of a muffin cake texture to it, but not as sweet. And so I can still enjoy that. I've learned how to make meatballs without with more of the gluten-free flour because you put a little bit of something in there to hold them together. So I can do that, and I've actually learned to make chicken and dumplings. That was one of my other favorites from my mom. I have a recipe for that that's gluten-free, dairy-free. And so I've just learned to take recipes. I took a culinary class, so I could learn how to take recipes and make them my own because I had so many food sensitivities.
And what I learned was what you eat a lot of tends to be what's bad for you.
Yeah,
That
so trying to rotate those foods. I always like to think about eating the rainbow during the day. And so if we can get those colors in, you're getting a lot more nutrients. But like I used a lot of almond flour to begin with when I was gluten free, and I found that I got sensitive to almonds. So I can use them some, but it's not the main thing that I use. But I was using them a lot, like almond milk, almond flour, almonds in my whatever, almond butter. So you kind of got to mix it up.
Yep. And my older daughter developed an allergy to almonds and as an adult. And one of the things that she found is she can have almonds if they're roasted or cooked, but it's the oil in the raw almonds that she can't have.
Oh,
So she can't
interesting.
so she can't do almond milk or almond butter. But if you have toasted almonds on something, she's fine.
That is a good thing to know.
And I can't do fresh rosemary, but I can do dried rosemary. And again, it's the oil.
Mm, that's good to look into.
So, somebody who thinks they're allergic to something in a different form might not be allergic to it.
That makes total sense.
So, what else do you think our viewers might need to hear about as far as foods and grief and memory and
I would say that like enjoy those foods that you shared with that person. Make it a special moment so that you like if so that you don't feel guilty. If it's something that's more of a dessert or like the pasta or whatever, if you used to be healthy and you're starting to eat those foods more, just enjoy that moment and savor that moment, but also for your health and your healing to make sure that you add in some of those healthy foods even if you're not feeling it, to and make it simple. Cooking doesn't have to be hard. Do like meat with a spice blend on it and a steamed veggie, and just make sure that you're nourishing your bodies so that you can nourish your brain and that you can just pull out of that grief if you need to.
what's in what you just said is also eat the simplest ingredients. So the less processed, don't buy pre-made frozen foods or canned foods or I mean, I even remember growing up, my mother stopped buying canned things when she learned how much sodium was in them. And then she went to frozen, and then she would cook the heck out of them, and they tasted as bad as canned stuff. So,
So yeah, and you can buy the pre stuff that's already pre-cut up. Like that's not cheating. You can do
right,
that if you want to get your pre-cut veggies, or if you like to do the steamer bags and put them in the microwave. I know that, like there's a whole bunch of talk about is microwave good for you or not. Hey, if you're getting some healthy foods in there and it's simple for you, then go for it.
exactly. I mean, I do like fajitas a lot without the starch. And so I just use the cut up chicken, put it in with the spice, and I buy the frozen bags of cut up red pepper, green pepper, and onions, and I throw it in with it, and you know, and with a
Yeah,
little cauliflower fake rice.
yeah. And I think and for people who might be alone now, like you've lost your spouse, it's hard to cook for one person. I have kids who are in their 20s that are single and live alone, and it's really hard for them to buy food that they're not going to throw out because it's only just them. And they don't love to eat the same thing over and over and over the entire week. And so that's another thing, like the frozen veggies are good for that, because you're not wasting so
Right.
much.
You can open up and take a little bit out and not a lot. The other thing that I'm finally starting to learn is to pack up my leftovers before I sit down to eat and throw them in the freezer
Oh,
with a
that's
date,
yeah.
so that I'm not eating the same thing 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row. I have it for another time.
Yeah, I
And
love like the freezer meals. I make those kind of ahead of time. That might be another good thing for somebody who's really struggling with how they're feeling is to get together and have that connection with other women and maybe making several meals that they can put in the freezer. So when they're not feeling like cooking, they'll already have those. But that
mhm.
connection is so important.
And even like I love potluck dinners that, somebody can plan what the meal is going to be and divide up the tasks. Each person has something to bring, and you bring your own dish to take leftovers in.
Oh, that's
And
great.
and you work together to prep sometimes. Sit I really hate cooking for myself and being in my kitchen, and it's like, really? I'd rather just eat the two hot dogs in the freezer.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's just easier.
So
Um,
I've just recently started a cooking club, and we cook on Zoom, so you cook in your own kitchen, and that way we still have connection and we have somebody to cook with, even though we're doing our work at home. And I've gotten a lot of people who like are either divorced or have lost a spouse because they said I just don't feel like doing this by myself anymore. And I'm
right.
kind of got like that with my kids being grown. Like, "Ugh, do I really want to menu plan and do all that stuff?" But I feel like just having that connection once a month has been helpful for them.
I think that's a great idea. I used to like cleaning up. I didn't like the cooking. So that still would be a problem for me.
I, I'm the opposite. I like the cooking. I don't like the cleaning up. My husband does that. That's what I have my husband for.
Well, that's what I used to do. I mean, I didn't mind certain dishes that I would do and he would do other things, but it was like, I don't want to do it every day.
Yeah. And you can cook. I have some people that love to eat the same thing all week. And so they'll just cook one healthy meal at the beginning of the week and that's what they eat. I like variety. Like
Me too.
I like flavor in my tea and I like variety in my food.
Yeah, I don't like eating leftovers. I don't like repeating things. Even if I loved what I ate,
Hmm.
I don't want to eat it the next day.
I'll eat it for lunch, but then I'm done.
See, lunch is definitely too close to what I had it for dinner. But I also will do weird things, which started when I had food sensitivity testing. So, like, I couldn't have eggs, I couldn't have gluten, I couldn't have dairy. And it was like, what am I going to have for breakfast?
Yep.
Yeah. And like I've eaten things like chicken.
Yeah.
I've eaten things like a kosher hot dog that has, whatever for breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm like, what difference does it make? It's basically sausage. My body doesn't know that it's not a breakfast food that other people think.
And I think in the United States, we eat different than most of the world for breakfast. We
Yeah.
do the carbs and the sugars, and like I eat different too. I basically eat a breakfast meat. Maybe it's turkey, like a turkey hash with a bunch of veggies, and so I eat different than most people. Everybody kind of looks at me if they come over like, okay, but that's what fuels my body, and that's what I feel best with.
Yeah. See, I don't want to cook in the morning at all. So since I can have dairy again, occasionally I will have, a little bit of cottage cheese with sunflower seeds. I'm probably the only person in the world who puts the two together, but I like the crunch, and the cottage cheese is just boring. So I can
Yeah,
do that.
yeah. So
And I
it
love
makes
it.
I do a lot of batch cooking for my breakfast so that it's like it'll take me 5 minutes to do.
Yeah. We've got a lot of people who are watching, and I want to have them know how they can reach you if they would like to work with you.
You can reach me. You can email me at balancedwellnesscf@gmail.com. Like if anybody would like to just, contact me if they're having problems figuring out how to change a recipe, I can kind of teach them how to do that. I do some groups as far as fatigue and just baby steps and changing your health habits. We do those step by step. And I do a lot of challenges, and I have that cooking club. So if you'd be interested in that, we do that once a month. And so I'll have that calendar coming up and what we'll be making. So if you don't want to cook by yourself, you can come join us. Or it could be, like a family affair as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. So everybody, contact Cindy.
I would love to chat with you.
And let's see if we can't get some of the grief that's stuck in your body to come out. Yeah,
Yes.
it's one of the things that our society has not awakened to. I guess that's the best way to say that, is that when we grieve, it's not just in our head. It's not just crying. It's everywhere in our body, and it affects everything. So we tend not to sleep well. We tend not to eat well. We don't talk to people. We don't hydrate.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's true.
we need to realize that the emotions are somatic. They're all over us. They're all around our body and in our bodies and in our minds, and we need to take care of all of us.
Yes, we do.
So thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate that you've been here with us today and have shared so much information. And everybody, contact Cindy.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. And we'll see the rest of you next time. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner-Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner-Lesser.